He painted the most famous smile in history, but that is not why the world still talks about him. Because 500 years ago, this man designed helicopters, tanks, robots, diving suits, and flying machines, in a time when people still believed the Earth was the center of the universe. The question is not who Leonardo da Vinci was. The real question is, how did he know so much so early? Leonardo was born in 1452 in a small village in Italy. He was an illegitimate child. This meant no formal education, no family name, and no social status. In that era, children like him were expected to grow up to be simple laborers. But from the start, Leonardo was different. He was completely obsessed with observing everything around him. The flow of water, the flight of birds, the play of light and shadow, the expressions on human faces, the workings of simple machines. While other children were out playing, Leonardo was watching the world like a complex puzzle, just waiting for him to solve it. This relentless curiosity would become the engine of his genius, proving that your beginning doesn't have to define your destiny. At the age of 14, he was sent to Florence to become an apprentice to a famous artist, Andrea del Barocco. It was a golden opportunity. But Leonardo wasn't just interested in learning how to paint and sculpt. He wanted to understand the why behind everything. How do muscles actually contract to move a limb? How does a bird's wing generate lift to fly? How do gears and levers transfer force? How do shadows fall on a three-dimensional object? He asked questions that nobody else seemed to care about, and slowly, he began filling notebooks, not with sketches for paintings, but with ideas, diagrams, and inventions that were centuries ahead of their time. He was an artist by trade, but an engineer and scientist by heart. When historians much later discovered his extensive collection of notebooks, they were completely baffled. They found that Leonardo wrote everything backwards, in a style known as mirror writing. You literally need a mirror to read his notes. But why? Was he trying to hide his revolutionary secrets from the prying eyes of the church or his rivals? Or was he protecting knowledge that he knew the world wasn't ready to understand? We may never know for sure, but what we do know is that these notebooks contained thousands of pages filled with intricate diagrams of machines that simply should not have existed in the 1400s. It was a treasure trove of a future he had already envisioned. Inside these mysterious pages were designs for inventions we now take for granted. There was a helicopter-like flying machine, which he called an aerial screw. There was an armored vehicle with rotating cannons, a precursor to the modern tank. He designed a robotic knight that could sit up, wave its arms, and move its head. He engineered scuba diving equipment for underwater exploration and warfare. He drew detailed plans for parachutes and even mechanical wings based on the anatomy of a bat. All of these were drawn with precise, scientific, and engineering detail. These weren't just wild fantasies or artistic doodles. They were scientifically plausible blueprints, but none of them would be successfully built for another 400 to 500 years. The question remains, how did he do it? Leonardo also had a darker, more forbidden curiosity. He secretly dissected human corpses, often at night, in hidden locations. This was strictly illegal at the time and was considered a grave sin, punishable by death. But Leonardo was driven by an insatiable need to understand the human body as if it were a machine. He wanted to see for himself how the heart pumped blood, how the joints moved, and how the brain connected to the nerves. His anatomical drawings of muscles, bones, and organs are so astonishingly accurate that they are still used in medical textbooks today. He achieved this level of detail without X-rays, without MRI scanners, and without any of the tools of modern medicine. Even his most famous work, the Mona Lisa, is not just a painting. The reason it's so renowned isn't just because of her mysterious smile. It's famous because of the revolutionary scientific techniques Leonardo used to create it. He employed optical illusions in her eyes, so they seemed to follow you. He embedded hidden geometry and mathematical proportions, like the golden ratio, into the composition of her face. He used a technique called sfumato, with layers upon layers of almost invisible brushstrokes, to create a lifelike depth that had never been seen before. Some theorists even believe he hid secret codes within the layers of paint, while others controversially suggest the face is a cleverly disguised self-portrait of Leonardo himself. Even today, art historians and scientists still argue about its many secrets. Here's one of the biggest mysteries. Leonardo never published his scientific discoveries. He never built or showed the world his incredible inventions. Why would a man with so much knowledge keep it all to himself? After a decade, his precious notebooks were scattered, sold, and lost for centuries. It wasn't until the 1800s that historians began the painstaking process of rediscovering and piecing them back together. And when they finally did, the world was shocked. Leonardo da Vinci had already written about the circulation of blood, the principles of friction, and theories of geology that mainstream science would only discover hundreds of years later. So, who was this man? Some historians simply call him the greatest genius who ever lived, a once-in-a-millennium mind. Others speculate that he might have had access to some ancient, lost knowledge from a forgotten civilization. A few even whisper that his understanding of the natural world was so profound that he could literally predict how future generations would build machines. Whatever the truth is, one thing is clear. Leonardo da Vinci was not just an artist. He was a mind living centuries ahead of his own time. A true Renaissance man in every sense of the word. He died in 1519. Long before the first helicopter took flight, long before tanks rolled onto a battlefield, and long before modern medicine could peer inside the human body. But he had already imagined them all, in detail, on paper, which leaves us with one haunting thought to consider. If you enjoyed this journey into the mind of a genius, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that challenge what you think you know.